Marriage and relationship are not merely social contracts, they are divine trusts. Two souls brought together not by chance, but by the wisdom of the Almighty. It is not about having someone to post pictures with or share holidays, it's about having a companion through tests, a shield in your vulnerability, and a mirror that reflects not just who you are, but who you could become with love and faith. Marriage is not the end goal. It is the beginning of a shared journey filled with moments of joy, discomfort, compromise, and growth. It demands more than love, it requires mercy, patience, and forgiveness, qualities that the Creator repeatedly reminds us to embody in our relationships. When the initial excitement fades, when beauty wrinkles, and when life throws challenges at your doorstep, what remains is character. What holds the relationship together is how you speak to one another when angry, how you act when disappointed, and how you show up even when it's easier to walk away. The strength of a relationship is never measured in how perfect your spouse is, but in how much effort both are willing to make for the sake of Allah. Not just for the sake of each other. That intention purifies the love, strengthens the bond, and builds resilience in the face of conflict. Love is not in mere words. It's in the silent acts. Covering for your spouse's flaws, protecting their honor in public and in private, lowering your voice when you want to shout, holding your tongue when you want to hurt, and remembering that the one you married is not your servant or your superior, but your partner in a sacred mission. It's not a power struggle, it's a place of peace, where both souls find tranquility, not turbulence. And if there is turbulence, then you face it as a team, not as enemies. The home becomes a haven when egos are set aside and humility takes its place. Do not allow comparisons to corrupt your contentment. Social media has glamorized love and destroyed gratitude. You were never meant to have a copy of someone else's relationship. Your spouse was chosen for you with divine precision. Their strengths are your gifts. Their weaknesses are your tests. And your flaws are theirs to carry with compassion. The couples who endure are not the ones who had no problems. They are the ones who chose each other every single time. Even when it was difficult. Even when the world gave them excuses to let go. The most powerful relationships are those where the bond is anchored in faith. Where both remind each other of prayer, of patience, of purpose. Where mistakes are not used as weapons, but as opportunities to grow. Where love doesn't chain but frees. Where words heal, not harm. When marriage is approached with sincerity and sincerity alone, it becomes not just a means of companionship in this life, but a bridge to eternal companionship in the next. Marriage is not a contract of perfection, it's a commitment to grow together in faith, love, and patience. It is not about finding someone who checks every box or fits an ideal image shaped by culture or fantasy. Rather, it is about accepting the imperfections of another soul and choosing to walk beside them with sincerity. Through every season life brings, people enter marriage thinking it will complete them or fix their loneliness. But marriage is not a cure for emptiness. It is a journey that requires fullness from within and a heart prepared to give, not just receive. When two people come together in marriage, they bring their pasts, their scars, their habits, and their emotional baggage. There is no such thing as a flawless spouse. Even the most righteous will have days of weakness, moments of silence, words that sting, or times when their hearts are heavy. But the beauty of marriage lies in growing through those moments, not running from them. Growth is not glamorous, it is uncomfortable, slow, and often painful. Yet it is through that discomfort that couples learn the true meaning of loyalty, patience, and sacrifice. It's not about who is right, where wants, but about who is willing to make things right. Faith plays a central role in this journey. When both partners recognize that their union is not just a worldly arrangement, but a spiritual responsibility, they begin to see each other through the lens of mercy. They understand that loving their spouse is an act of worship, that being gentle in disagreements is a reflection of character, and that forgiving one another is not weakness but strength. They do not expect their partner to be perfect, because they know only the Creator is perfect. They offer grace, knowing that they too are in need of it. Love in marriage is not always fireworks or romantic gestures. Often, it is shown in simple acts, a kind word after a long day, a silent hug during a storm, a hand held in prayer. It is waking up next to the same person, not because every day is easy, but because commitment means staying even when emotions fluctuate. Love matures with time when it is rooted in respect. It becomes deeper when tested, stronger when challenged, and more meaningful when built on small, consistent acts of compassion. Patience is the bridge that carries the relationship through trials. It is required when expectations are not met, when communication falters, when distance creeps in, or when differences become apparent. Marriage will test your patience in ways no other relationship can. But each test is an opportunity to rise above ego and choose humility. B. It's not about changing your spouse to fit your mold, but about helping each other become better versions of yourselves. Growth happens when you choose understanding over judgment, presence over pride, and intention over impulse. True love in marriage is not just about emotions, but about loyalty, sacrifice, and the intention to please the Creator through your spouse. Emotions may start a relationship, but they do not sustain it. Feelings can be fleeting, changing with mood, time, and circumstance. What gives love its strength and permanence is the commitment behind it, the sacrifices made for it, and the conscious effort to connect that love to a higher purpose. When a person enters marriage, believing that love is only about affection or romance, they are unprepared for the deeper dimensions of what love truly demands. Real love shows itself when things aren't easy, when your spouse is tired, when their flaws are exposed, and when your own needs are unmet. That's when loyalty and sacrifice rise above emotions. Loyalty in marriage is a quiet but powerful form of love. It means standing by your spouse in their absence, defending their dignity, and choosing them even when life tempts you to look elsewhere. It's remaining committed not just in convenience but in hardship. Loyalty isn't loud, but it speaks volumes, in the way you protect your partner's secrets, how you speak of them to others, and how you never let the storms outside enter the peace of your home. In a world that normalizes disloyalty and makes betrayal look glamorous, staying loyal becomes an act of strength, and a sign that your love is rooted in values, not just feelings. Sacrifice is at the core of any successful marriage. It is giving up your comfort at times for your spouse's ease. It is prioritizing their needs, supporting their dreams, being patient with their shortcomings, and making space for their growth. True love requires letting go of selfishness and embracing service, not in a way that erases your worth, but in a way that uplifts both of you. Every time you give without expecting, forgive without keeping count, or hold back a harsh word even when justified, you are practicing a form of love that goes beyond emotion. You are planting seeds that may not always be noticed immediately, but they grow into a bond that withstands hardship and deepens with time. What elevates this love to something even greater is the intention behind it. To please the Creator. When you treat your spouse well, not just because they deserve it in that moment, but because you seek the reward of the one who brought you together, your love gains a higher meaning. You begin to see marriage not as a transaction of feelings, but as a form of worship. Every act of kindness, every moment of patience, every sacrifice becomes a step toward spiritual reward. When love is centered around pleasing the Creator, it is purified from ego, protected from temporary disappointment, and strengthened by sincerity. It becomes less about what your spouse gives you, and more about what you give for the sake of the one who knows your efforts even when they go unseen. Your spouse is not your opponent. They are your partner in navigating life's tests, a garment for you as you are for them. Marriage is not a battlefield where two people compete for control, dominance, or constant validation. It is a sacred space where both souls are meant to find refuge, comfort, and support. The bond between spouses is not built on rivalry, but on companionship. In the Quran, the metaphor of a garment is not accidental. A garment protects, conceals, beautifies, and warms. That is what spouses are meant to be for one another, should be. They are not just companions in joy, but anchors in hardship, protectors of each other's dignity, and witnesses to each other's growth. A spouse sees you in your most unfiltered state, at your lowest, in your weakness, when your patience is thin, and your heart is heavy. They see behind the public face, the polished image, and into the depths of who you truly are, and yet, they choose to stay, support, and uplift. That loyalty and compassion are not found in adversaries. They are found in a partner who understands that marriage is not a game of winning and losing, but a journey of holding each other through trials. Life is full of tests, loss, stress, failure, illness, uncertainty. And the presence of a spouse during these tests can either be a burden or a blessing, depending on whether you treat them as a rival or a teammate. When spouses begin to see each other as threats or opponents, their home becomes a battlefield. The energy shifts from cooperation to confrontation. Every disagreement becomes a power struggle. Every mistake becomes ammunition. In such a space, peace is lost. But when a couple understands that they are on the same side, facing the same external pressures, navigating the same trials, their approach to one another softens. They begin to argue less to win, and more to understand. They shift from blame to problem solving. They seek solutions together, not at the expense of one another. A partner is someone who shields you when the world throws arrows. Someone who reminds you of your worth when you forget it. Someone who helps you heal without using your wounds against you. They don't expose your flaws to others. They cover you like a garment, protecting your dignity even in your most vulnerable moments. They correct you in private, defend you in public, and pray for you in silence. They don't walk ahead of you or behind you. They walk beside you. They know that life will have its share of pain, but it becomes bearable when you're not facing it alone. To be a garment to your spouse also means becoming a safe space. A place where they don't need to pretend. A space where their fears are heard, their dreams are supported, and their weaknesses are not mocked. It means learning to hold space for their emotions, even when you don't understand them. It means being their calm in chaos, their rest after the storm, and their reason to keep striving even when the world tells them to quit. Communication with compassion is a sunnah. Silent resentment destroys what gentle words can heal. The way we speak to those closest to us holds tremendous weight in the stability of our relationships, especially within a marriage. Often, it is not the presence of conflict that damages a bond, but the absence of mercy in how we express it. There is nothing weak or unnecessary about kind speech. It is prophetic, powerful, and necessary. The Prophet was the most compassionate communicator, especially with those in his household. He did not belittle, insult, or emotionally distance himself to prove a point. Instead, he corrected with love, advised with patience, and allowed space for the heart to breathe even when emotions were heavy. When spouses stop speaking from the heart, resentment grows quietly. Silent walls begin to form where conversations once flowed. Unspoken pain becomes misinterpreted, and assumptions replace clarity. The longer issues remain unaddressed, the deeper the wounds go. What could have been healed with a few calm, sincere words now becomes a storm of misunderstanding. Avoiding communication does not avoid conflict. It only delays it until it erupts with more damage. The Sunnah teaches us that silence, when used to avoid fitna, is wise. But when used to punish or manipulate in relationships, it becomes a silent cruelty. Compassion in communication doesn't mean you always agree. It means you choose respect over reaction. It means you listen to understand, not to reply. It's about controlling the tongue, even when you're hurt, about choosing not to speak when anger clouds your judgment, and about picking the right time and tone to bring up sensitive topics. Many relationships crumble not because the problems were unsolvable, but because the way they were addressed lacked wisdom, humility, and softness. Gentle words have the power to melt even the hardest hearts. When a spouse feels heard rather than judged, valued rather than dismissed, their willingness to repair and reconnect grows. The goal of communication should never be to win an argument, or to be louder than the other. It should be to preserve the love that exists and to nurture understanding. Even when pointing out a mistake, there is a way to do so with grace. Harshness only triggers defensiveness. But when your words come from a place of love, even criticism is received as care. In relationships where compassion is absent from communication, fear begins to replace love. A spouse may no longer feel safe to express how they feel. They suppress their pain, wear a mask of indifference, and slowly detach emotionally. That emotional distance often becomes harder to fix than the original issue. What could have been resolved with softness now requires a much deeper process of healing. To communicate with compassion is not only to follow the Sunnah, it is to build a home where both hearts can be vulnerable without fear, where love is expressed not just in actions but in language, and where misunderstandings are met with empathy, not ego. Don't compare your marriage to others. Peace is not measured by public displays but private sincerity. In a time where people showcase only the best parts of their lives on screens, it has become easy to fall into the trap of comparison. Marriages that seem perfect online, filled with smiles, vacations, and romantic captions, can stir doubts in the hearts of those who quietly wrestle with everyday challenges behind closed doors. But what is seen publicly is often a carefully curated moment, not the full truth. Real peace is not always loud or visible. It is not about extravagant gestures, grand gifts, or public declarations of affection. It is found in the quiet acts of kindness, the silent prayers made for each other, the small compromises, and the mutual effort to maintain respect and understanding. When couples begin to compare their relationship to others, they start holding their spouse to an invisible standard, one shaped by illusion rather than reality. This leads to ungratefulness, frustration, and eventually resentment. Where warmth should be, a husband may wonder why his wife doesn't speak like someone else's wife on social media. A wife may question why her husband isn't as expressive as someone else's husband appears in a viral video. These comparisons diminish the value of what they already have, and blind them to the unique blessings present in their own relationship. Every marriage has its own journey, its own struggles, and its own form of beauty that cannot be replicated or measured by someone else's standard. Sincerity is often invisible to the public eye. A husband who quietly provides, who lowers his gaze, who prays for his wife's peace in Tahajjud, may not post about it. But his actions carry weight in the sight of the one who matters most. A wife who covers her husband's faults, who stands by him when he feels like a failure, who encourages him to stay close to Allah during hardship, may not be praised online. But she is fulfilling a role that angels record with honor. These sincere acts may never be seen or applauded by the world, but they form the foundation of a peaceful home. That peace may not look glamorous, but it feels safe, it feels genuine, and it brings a tranquility that no online affirmation can replace. Real intimacy and love in marriage are built in the unseen. How spouses handle each other's flaws, how they forgive after arguments, how they speak of each other when the other is not present, and how they stand united in front of life's trials. These things are not shared in posts or stories. They are lived in quiet mornings, in late-night conversations, in moments of shared silence and heartfelt does. The couple that seeks Allah's pleasure through each other, that puts barakah before image, and that values connection over comparison, finds a depth in their relationship that no public admiration can match. Peace in marriage is not about being envied, it's about being truly content with what you share in private. Marriage is not sustained by beauty or wealth, but by mutual respect, spiritual connection, and conscious forgiveness. Beauty may attract, but it does not anchor a relationship. Wealth may provide comfort, but it does not guarantee peace. What sustains a marriage, through the highs and lows, through joy and exhaustion, is the way two people treat each other when no one is watching. Mutual respect creates a foundation of trust. It means valuing your spouse's thoughts, honoring their emotions, and never belittling their efforts. It is seen in how spouses speak to each other, how they listen without interrupting, how they disagree without dishonor, and how they recognize the other's role without minimizing their own. Respect is not just about politeness. It's a balance about recognizing the sacred bond between two individuals who were brought together by divine will. A spiritual connection in marriage elevates the relationship beyond the material. When both partners are aligned in their ultimate purpose, to please the Creator, their love is guided by principles that protect it from corruption. They pray for one another, remind each other of their responsibilities to Allah, and keep the home filled with the remembrance of the divine. This spiritual bond strengthens the marriage in ways external factors cannot. It helps both individuals remain grounded during challenges, and it provides a shared language of hope, mercy, and submission to a higher purpose. A couple that prays together, that speaks with sincerity for the sake of Allah, and that supports each other's growth in faith, builds a love that transcends worldly trials. Conscious forgiveness is another vital thread that holds a marriage together. No relationship is free of mistakes, misunderstandings, or moments of disappointment. But the decision to forgive, not out of obligation, but out of love and faith, is what brings healing. Forgiveness in marriage is not weakness. It is a conscious choice to let go of resentment so that love can breathe again. It means not holding past mistakes as weapons in future arguments. It means remembering that you too are flawed, and that mercy is something we all need. A spouse who forgives with grace, who chooses to mend instead of magnify, protects the relationship from becoming a battlefield of egos. What sustains marriage is the daily decision to show up, to love through imperfections, to be patient through discomfort, and to keep choosing the person you vowed to stand beside. It is not the external factors that give marriage its strength, but the internal intentions and actions. It's in the way a husband lowers his gaze and guards his tongue, the way a wife covers her husband's faults and supports his dreams. Warmth should be, and the way both protect the sanctity of their bond in a world that constantly tries to pull hearts apart. The essence of a lasting marriage lies not in the temporary glow of youth or the glitter of possessions, but in the quiet dignity of respect, the serenity of shared faith, where on the softness of a heart that chooses to forgive again and again.